Oil tankers are meticulously designed to safely carry millions of barrels of crude oil across oceans by integrating multiple advanced safety features and engineering principles. A single tanker can transport over 2 million barrels, enough to fuel every car in the United States for an entire day. This is a cargo that is highly flammable and environmentally catastrophic if spilled. Yet it crosses oceans thousands of times a year without incident. This success is not due to luck, but because the ships are engineered like floating fortresses. Every part of a modern oil tanker is constructed to contain danger, manage chaos, and protect both the crew and the planet from disaster. The consequences of a single rupture, explosion, or fire would be an environmental catastrophe with global headlines, billion-dollar cleanup costs, and shattered lives. This is why oil tankers are more than just vessels. They are precision-engineered safety systems disguised as ships. The defining feature of a modern oil tanker is the double hull. It is a system of two separate layers of steel separating the ocean from the crude oil. Should the outer hull be breached by a collision, grounding, or structural fatigue, the inner hull remains intact, containing the oil. This design became a mandatory international standard after the 1989 Exxon Valdez disaster, which spilled over 10 million gallons of oil into Prince William Sound, Alaska. The public outcry and environmental devastation that followed resulted in sweeping regulatory changes. Today, regulations under MARPOL and the Oil Pollution Act require all large tankers to have double hulls. The space between the two hulls is typically around 2 meters wide and provides a buffer zone, allowing for inspection and serving as a ballast tank when needed. Its main function, however, is simple. If the outer shell breaks, the oil stays contained. Inside the tanker, the oil is not held in one large pool, but is divided into multiple sealed tanks separated by internal bulkheads. This compartmentalization serves two purposes. First, it prevents the oil from sloshing freely, a free surface effect that can destabilize the vessel, especially in rough seas. Dividing the cargo keeps the ship balanced and maneuverable. Second, if a leak occurs, the damage is confined to a single tank, limiting the spill to a fraction of the total cargo. Each compartment is constantly monitored for temperature, pressure, and structural integrity, with crews receiving continuous readouts to watch for even minor changes. The air inside a crude oil tank is more hazardous than the oil itself because oil vapors are highly flammable. One spark is all it takes to ignite a fireball. To prevent this, tankers use inert gas systems, IGS, to neutralize the atmosphere inside the tanks.
Before we get to that, I need your help. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help. So I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and help me out.
The tanks are filled with inert gases such as nitrogen or flue gases from the ship's engine exhaust, which displace oxygen and make combustion impossible. The system operates continuously to maintain oxygen levels below the 8% threshold required for ignition. Without IGS, the tanker is a floating bomb. With it, even a major external fire cannot trigger an internal explosion, making it one of the most critical safety systems on board. While inert gases make cargo tanks safe, vapors still accumulate, particularly during loading and unloading. If these vapors are not safely vented, the pressure could rupture the tanks. Modern tankers use precision-engineered venting systems with pressure relief valves that automatically open when vapor pressure exceeds safety thresholds. These vapors are directed through vent masts high above the deck to prevent them from collecting at ground level, where ignition sources might exist. Some tankers have vapor recovery systems to capture and reprocess these gases instead of releasing them. The entire system is a balance, keeping pressure low enough to prevent rupture while ensuring oxygen never re-enters the tanks. Crude oil, especially heavy crude, can become viscous or even solidify at ambient temperatures. To ensure it flows easily during unloading, tankers have cargo heating systems. These systems, which use steam coils or thermal oil pipelines in the tank walls and floors, maintain the oil at a set temperature, usually between 45–65 degrees C. Without heating, the oil could clog pipes and damage pumps, delaying port operations. The heating also prevents cold-induced separation or emulsification, which degrades the cargo's quality. A cold tanker is not just inefficient, but financially catastrophic. Despite all precautions, fire is a constant threat, and tankers are built with an array of firefighting tools. For enclosed areas, CO2 flooding systems can fill an entire compartment with carbon dioxide in seconds to smother a fire without damaging electronics. High-pressure fire hoses are placed throughout the ship to deliver seawater with massive force. Sprinkler systems are used around engine and pump rooms. Foam monitors are available to blanket oil spills with fire-suppressing foam. Alarms and heat sensors trigger automatic responses and alert the crew instantly. The crew trains constantly with weekly fire drills and daily equipment inspections because on a tanker, complacency kills. If a problem occurs, such as a tank rupture, a pressure spike, or a fire, the emergency shutdown system, ESD, takes over instantly. The ESD stops cargo operations, closes all valves, stops pumps, and isolates affected tanks. This system is designed to act faster than human reflexes, reducing risk and saving lives. Oil tankers do not always carry oil. When sailing empty, they are unstable and dangerous. To counter this, ballast water systems fill ballast tanks with seawater to stabilize the ship, adjusting its trim, draft, and center of gravity. Modern systems allow for automated balancing using real-time data to ensure safety during storms, port navigation, or emergency maneuvers. The ballast tanks are separate from cargo spaces to prevent contamination. The discharge of ballast water is strictly regulated by international law to prevent the transfer of invasive marine species. Every tanker must adhere to global safety standards. The SOLAS, Safety of Life at Sea, convention governs construction and crew safety, while MARPOL, Marine Pollution, dictates environmental compliance. Port state control ensures these standards are enforced. Tankers are equipped with extensive monitoring equipment, including radar, AIS, GPS, and onboard sensors that monitor hull stress, vibration, and fatigue. High-level alarms trigger if tanks overfill, and spill containment kits are mandatory. Ship inspections are frequent and detailed, and violations can lead to a vessel being grounded, its license suspended, or criminal charges. The goal of an oil tanker's design is to transport an immense volume of volatile material across oceans without failure. The vessel is a controlled hazard, a balance between economic need and catastrophic potential. Past disasters like the Exxon Valdez, MT Haven, Erica, and Prestige, which led to oil-soaked beaches and dead wildlife, have reshaped regulation, design, and global policy. The modern tanker is a result of these lessons, carrying risk locked in steel, wrapped in sensors, and managed by systems designed to anticipate the unpredictable. This system works. Thousands of tankers sail daily through stormy seas and fragile ecosystems without incident because engineering, regulation, and discipline keep the danger contained. The most impressive aspect of an oil tanker is not its size, but its silence. The fact that such a massive and potentially catastrophic entity can move invisibly through the world without causing destruction is a testament to human precision. Success in crude oil transport is not measured in dollars, but in what doesn't happen. No spills, no fires, no accidents. This is a quiet hum of turbines, the steady beat of navigation, and a constant dance with danger that has been mastered by design.
Before we get to that, I need your help. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help. So I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and help me out.
On paper, a deck officer's job is simple. Keep the ship afloat, follow the course, and deliver the cargo. In reality, it is a relentless grind of responsibility and precision that lasts 24 hours a day for weeks at a time. The margin for error is microscopic, and the consequences are catastrophic. The bridge is always staffed, with deck officers standing watch in 4 or 6 hour rotations. Before a shift starts, an officer reports early to check navigation systems, scan the radar, and assess weather patterns. Precision is not optional, it is protocol. Bridge watch means an officer is responsible for the vessel's safe navigation, which includes checking the GPS position every 15 minutes, comparing radar with charted landmasses, maintaining a visual lookout, and monitoring AIS for nearby traffic. An officer adjusts the course for a storm and notifies the captain to plan a deviation for icebergs. Staying alert is non-negotiable because one missed contact can turn a 300,000-ton tanker into a disaster. On an oil tanker, a crew member isn't just moving a vessel, but a volatile cargo with its own rules regarding temperature, pressure, and compatibility codes. The chief officer is typically the cargo master, but every deck officer is trained to understand the stakes. The wrong valve opened at the wrong time could cause an explosion. During cargo operations, deck officers supervise everything, checking pipelines, confirming inert gas systems are active, monitoring manifold pressure, and testing for leaks. During loading, each tank must be filled in sequence and trimmed correctly to keep the ship balanced. A process of engineering choreography on an industrial scale. The industry does not forget past mistakes, like the 2010 MSC Prestige, which suffered severe structural damage from improper loading stress, and neither do the deck officers. On a long voyage, drills are constant and include weekly abandoned ship, fire, man overboard, and oil spill contingency protocols. These are not formalities, as a small mistake on a ship carrying crude oil can become global news. Every officer must know how to activate the CO2 fire suppression system. Deck officers oversee these drills, briefing the crew, simulating scenarios, and inspecting gear. If a fire hose is split or a life raft needs servicing, it is replaced immediately. Safety is a culture. One lapse is a risk to everyone on board. Officers also monitor gas detectors and oxygen levels in ballast tanks. They are trained to handle and prevent anything that can go wrong. Maintenance never ends, and every day includes rounds. Deck officers conduct detailed inspections of the deck, anchor chains, mooring winches, hatches, and lifeboats. They carry checklists, take photos, and log deficiencies. If a mooring line shows wear, it is flagged for replacement. A hydraulic oil leak is reported before it becomes a hazard. Nothing is too small, because at sea, nothing breaks quietly. Maintenance also includes supervising painting, chipping rust, greasing mechanical parts, and testing load-bearing gear. Between tasks, there is always paperwork. Deck officers maintain multiple logbooks for the bridge, engine, cargo, safety, radio, and oil. Each entry must be timed, signed, and compliant with international maritime conventions such as MARPOL, SOLAS, and ISM. They also update the passage plan, marking waypoints and verifying charts. Every course change must be plotted and every deviation recorded. If log entries do not match ECDIS data, the ship may be detained. Deck officers also manage emails from charterers, send progress reports, and request supplies. For multinational crews, they track visa documents and STCW training standards. Deck officers don't just follow orders, they give them, assigning daily work to deck ratings, monitoring performance, and resolving disputes. Leadership on a ship is unique because you live with your team. Deck officers must lead with confidence and humility, enforcing safety without alienating the crew. They act as mediators, trainers, supervisors, and counselors, collaborating constantly with the captain and other officers. An oil tanker can cause irreversible ecological damage with one misstep, so deck officers oversee strict environmental protocols. They monitor the performance of oily water separators, ballast water treatment, incinerator logs, and emissions levels. Discharging even treated water requires meticulous logging and timing. They are responsible for ensuring the ship complies with MARPOL annexes 1 through V, which means no oil discharges or garbage overboard. Ballast exchange procedures are followed precisely to prevent the transfer of invasive species. If a slick is spotted, it is reported immediately, and oil spill kits are inspected weekly. One spill can lead to criminal charges and reputational ruin. There is no off day. You might be off watch, but you are never off duty. A sudden squall, a port inspection at 5 a.m., or a sick steersman means you are needed. Deck officers sleep in shifts, meals are rushed, and isolation sets in with rare calls home. Yet they continue, driven by professionalism and the sheer magnitude of their responsibility. The work is not about adventure, but about control, a mastery of the vessel and procedure. Every barrel of fuel that powers global economies has passed through their hands, navigated, protected, and delivered by them. Their work keeps economies moving, but it is rarely acknowledged, marked only by pressure, performance, and silent, precise execution. A day for a deck officer is 6 hours staring at radar screens, an afternoon supervising rust chipping and writing reports while calculating load stress on a 1,000,000-barrel cargo. It's drills at 3 a.m. and inspections at 6 p.m. It's living in steel and breathing salt, never missing an entry in the logbook. It's knowing that one mistake can cause an ecosystem-wide spill, while one decision, made in seconds, can save the ship. It is a daily test of vigilance that few people ever witness, but every society depends on. An oil tanker is a floating fortress of flammable cargo, and a single wrong turn into pirate-infested waters or a superstorm can turn a voyage into a catastrophe. Every navigational route is a high-stakes equation, not a straight line from A to B, but a meticulously calculated, constantly evolving path shaped by intelligence and real-time data. Voyage planners conduct intensive risk assessments before the journey begins, using real-time piracy databases and intelligence from organizations like RECAP and the IMO. They track threat levels around the clock in volatile areas, such as the Gulf of Aden, the Strait of Malacca, the Gulf of Guinea, and the Red Sea. When a region becomes volatile, like in 2025, when piracy in the Horn of Africa surged by 80%, routes are instantly adjusted. This may mean rerouting a tanker around the Cape of Good Hope instead of through the Suez Canal, adding weeks to the journey, but avoiding hijacking attempts. It's about protecting human lives and ensuring energy security for entire nations. The unspoken pressure on every captain is to navigate some of the most hostile waters on Earth while carrying cargo worth hundreds of millions in a ship that cannot stop or turn quickly and is a sitting duck if caught off guard. In piracy-prone areas, tankers rely on international patrols, coalition convoys, and naval escorts. The Internationally Recommended Transit Corridor, IRTC, in the Gulf of Aden, is a heavily guarded path coordinated with NATO, the EU, and independent naval powers. Tankers align their schedules to join these convoys and receive direct instructions from warships. They often carry armed security personnel, typically ex-special forces, to repel boarding attempts and execute evasive protocols. While pirates and geopolitics get headlines, the weather is just as deadly and far less predictable. A rogue wave does not negotiate. Every tanker route is integrated with advanced weather routing software that uses real-time satellite data, historical storm patterns, and meteorological forecasts. Voyage optimization systems like OneOcean dynamically suggest course changes based on developing weather systems and favorable currents. These calculations happen hourly, with updates received via satellite communication. Tankers do not just react, they anticipate. In high-risk weather zones, captains constantly scrutinize wind speed, swell height, and visibility. A miscalculation could push a fully laden VLCC into a pitch roll cycle that fractures hull supports or destabilizes the cargo. This has happened before, and every captain remembers those disasters. The Automatic Identification System, AIS, on the bridge tracks the movements of nearby vessels. Radar overlays show shipping lanes, storm fronts, and potential collision courses. If a suspicious vessel turns without broadcasting its AIS signature, the crew is put on high alert. Ship hardening protocols are initiated, including installing barbed wire, preparing hoses, and activating anti-boarding lights. Deck officers undergo specialized training to detect pirate approach vectors, use evasive maneuvers, and implement lockdown procedures. Watchkeeping is intensified near choke points, and lookouts use night vision scopes. These are not overreactions. They are protocol, laid out in globally accepted anti-piracy guidelines like BMP5, best management practices to deter piracy. BMP5 is not a suggestion, but a codebook for survival, with every reputable shipping company incorporating it into daily operations. It dictates everything from what speed to maintain in high-risk zones to how to maneuver and what frequency to broadcast an SOS on. Improvisation kills. Despite all the planning, piracy and storms remain unpredictable. The system works because of its adaptability. Routes are not static lines on a map, but living, evolving paths adjusted daily, or even hourly, by teams of navigators, weather analysts, logistics coordinators, and security advisors across the globe. The captain may be at sea, but their ship is part of a real-time global surveillance network. The stakes are immense, as a hijacked tanker can rattle global oil prices and a wrecked vessel can cause an environmental catastrophe. In 2025, the ICS barometer showed a 17% increase in route deviations due to piracy and extreme weather threats. Tankers increasingly bypassed the Red Sea due to Houthi drone threats, choosing the longer but safer Cape route, which added 14 days to voyages but avoided geopolitical entanglement and risk. And yet, oil still moves. It moves because every journey has redundancies, protocols, and fail-safes, from the crew and software to naval escorts and intelligence briefings. The result is not just efficiency, but resilience. This is modern navigation, a multi-layered shield of intelligence, technology, and teamwork. An oil tanker sails through danger, unarmed and exposed, protected only by its planning. Its path is carved through risk, guided by data, and defended by vigilance. It does not just get there, it is navigated like a chess piece across a minefield. Life on board an oil tanker is defined by steel corridors, echoing engines, and the constant vibration of a 300,000-ton vessel. For months, the ship serves as a crew member's home, workplace, and everything in between. The crew quarters are a tightly engineered ecosystem designed not just to house workers, but to preserve their minds and morale under extreme conditions. Most crew members have individual cabins, which is a necessity, not a luxury, as living for months without privacy would be psychologically taxing. These cabins are compact but functional, featuring a narrow bed bolted to the floor, a wardrobe, and a desk. Most modern cabins include a private bathroom with a shower, sink, and toilet, which serves as a psychological lifeline when far from land. Officers' cabins are larger and may include a separate sleeping area and a day room that functions as a miniature office. These quarters might have a couch, bookshelves, and a TV. These amenities are functional, as senior officers handle critical paperwork and planning, so their quarters are designed to double as workspaces. The common areas are crucial for decompression and community. The mess room is the social heart, where meals are served at bolted-down tables. The predictability of mealtime helps mark time in an otherwise timeless environment. Recreation rooms offer variety with TV lounges, game tables, and even small gyms with equipment bolted to the floor. Some ships also have prayer rooms. Safety governs every inch of the accommodation block, which is typically located in the superstructure near the aft of the vessel. This location minimizes exposure to hazardous cargo areas and vibrations. Every cabin has emergency escape routes, smoke detectors, sprinklers, and fireproof doors. Crews conduct regular drills so everyone knows where to go in an emergency. Cabins also have internal phones or intercoms for communication. Modern tankers may offer restricted internet or satellite calling times for personal contact. The support systems include laundry rooms, medical bays, and administrative offices. The laundry room is a mandatory cycle of hygiene. The medical bay is a basic but essential room with medication and diagnostic tools, managed by a trained officer. It is not a hospital, but it is enough to handle minor injuries until help is available. Administrative rooms like the captain's office and radio room are the nerve centers of operation, but also living quarters in disguise, where order equates to safety. Most cabins have limited natural light, with small portholes or no windows at all. This makes artificial lighting critical, with warm-tone bulbs and dimmers helping to reduce strain and create a comforting atmosphere. The psychological toll of living in close quarters for months is a test few can imagine. It is not just confinement, but the repetition and isolation from family. Crew quarters are designed for recovery, and noise insulation helps, though it is never perfect. Earplugs and white noise machines are common coping tools. Routine is king, and quarters reinforce this by providing a predictable, personalized space within the chaos of maritime operations. Some newer vessels have upgraded quarters with better soundproofing and ergonomic designs. They may offer on-demand entertainment and satellite internet in common areas. However, on older ships, bare minimum functionality is the norm, and crew members personalize their spaces with photos and personal items to survive. The layout is defined by hierarchy, with officers on upper levels closer to the bridge, and junior ratings on lower levels closer to the engine room. This is a practical design choice, as senior staff need rest to make critical decisions. Regardless of rank, everyone's quarters serve the same purpose: to recharge human beings tasked with managing a floating fire hazard. The crew quarters on an oil tanker are not about luxury, but about efficiency, endurance, and engineering humanity into a steel box. They are where isolation becomes bearable and where mental health is defended. Every drop of crude oil carried across oceans is a high-stakes gamble with fire. An oil tanker is essentially a floating bomb, with millions of gallons of flammable cargo in massive steel holds. A single spark or system failure could be catastrophic. Fires on oil tankers are not hypothetical. They are historical. The MT Haven fire in 1991 killed 6 and burned for days, and the Sanchi disaster in 2018 resulted in the loss of the entire crew. To prevent future incidents, modern oil tankers are equipped with an arsenal of technologies and protocols. This is not just about regulation, it is about survival. Fire detection systems are the first line of defense, constantly monitoring critical zones like the cargo pump room, engine room, and accommodation areas. A layered system of smoke, heat, and flame detectors is designed to catch a fire in its infancy, when seconds still matter. These sensors are connected to central fire alarm panels on the bridge and in the engine control rooms. An anomaly triggers an immediate alert, and crew are trained to act within seconds. The real danger is not fire, but explosion, as crude oil vapors can create a volatile and explosive atmosphere when mixed with oxygen. Inert gas systems, IGS, address this by flooding empty cargo spaces with non-combustible gas, typically nitrogen or flue gas, reducing the oxygen content below the 8% threshold where combustion is impossible. Without oxygen, fire cannot start. Oxygen levels inside the tanks are monitored 24/7, and if they rise above safe levels, alarms are triggered and inert gas is reintroduced. Failure to maintain this inert atmosphere turns a routine voyage into a floating time bomb. Despite precautions, fires can still ignite. So, tankers have multiple fixed fire suppression systems tailored to specific zones. Foam systems are used on the cargo deck and manifold areas to blanket fuel fires and prevent reignition. CO2 systems are used in enclosed spaces like engine rooms because carbon dioxide displaces oxygen and extinguishes flames in seconds. Water mist and high-pressure water spray systems are used in accommodation zones and machinery spaces to cool surfaces and suppress fire without causing flood damage. These systems are regularly tested and drilled. Tankers also carry an arsenal of portable firefighting tools, including hoses, foam applicators, and various extinguishers. These are strategically positioned, and every crew member is trained to use them. Fire drills are held weekly, with fire teams assigned by name and role. In an emergency, every second counts, and every hand must be capable. A single spark can trigger a chain reaction in a space saturated with explosive vapors. Therefore, oil tankers follow rigorous standards like NFPA 70 for explosion-proof electrical equipment in hazardous zones. Lighting fixtures, wiring, and motors are sealed and designed to contain any internal explosion. Intrinsically safe designs limit energy output below ignition levels. Maintenance tools used in hazardous areas are spark-resistant. Any electrical work near cargo zones requires a permit, gas testing, and double supervision. Hydrocarbon vapors accumulate in enclosed spaces and must be continuously vented. Tankers use high-capacity mechanical ventilation systems to clear flammable fumes and provide fresh air. During cargo operations, vapor control systems, VCS, capture and recycle released vapors. Without these systems, tankers would release flammable gases into the atmosphere, creating a fire risk and environmental disaster. Any abnormal vapor level triggers an automatic halt in cargo operations. If all else fails, emergency shutdown systems, ESDs, take over. These systems halt cargo pumps, close valves, isolate electrical systems, and trigger alarms. ESD buttons are strategically located for manual or automatic activation. The system is designed for speed, one hit, and the ship goes dark, sealed, and safe. Crew are drilled in ESD scenarios, and false alarms are tolerated because hesitation is not. Technology is useless without discipline. Oil tankers enforce rigid operational controls, including absolute no-smoking zones and strict limits on combustible materials. Every shift begins with toolbox meetings where crews are briefed on hazards. Safety officers conduct rounds, and near-miss reports are encouraged and investigated. Training is ongoing, with crews undergoing firefighting certifications and vessel-specific emergency response programs. A complacent crew is a dangerous crew. The ship itself is a weapon against fire. Bulkheads, decks, and doors in accommodation areas are made from fire-rated materials. Fire doors are self-closing and heat-resistant, and escape routes are flame-retardant. The design of the ship, with its segregated compartments and double hull, is optimized to contain and isolate a fire. Fire safety on an oil tanker is a continuous process, not a monthly check. Fixed systems are tested weekly, and portable gear is inspected before every voyage. Engineers log every maintenance task, and safety officers audit every inspection. The ship is a living machine, and fire safety is its heartbeat. These measures are enforced by international regulations like SOLAS and ISGOT, with classification societies ensuring compliance through rigorous inspection. However, what truly prevents disaster is a culture where fire safety is a mindset, not a checkbox. The MT Haven disaster was caused by faulty maintenance and a lack of emergency shutdown systems, a lesson learned at an immense cost. The Sanchi disaster, where an entire crew was lost, serves as a warning that even modern equipment can fail without immediate response. You may never board an oil tanker, but you benefit from their safety systems every time you use fuel or plastic. Fire safety on oil tankers is a triumph of engineering, discipline, and collective vigilance, a reminder that survival in high-risk environments depends on layers of protection that are rigorously tested and relentlessly enforced. An oil tanker's main engine runs constantly for weeks on end, delivering power 24/7 to move thousands of tons of crude oil across oceans. The key to this continuous operation is engineering discipline, a rigorous system of checks, diagnostics, and foresight that keeps these massive vessels from ever stopping, even for a moment. An engine failure on the open sea isn't an option, as it would turn the ship into a floating hazard that could be battered by waves or collide with other vessels. With millions of gallons of crude oil on board, the environmental consequences of such a failure would be devastating. So, ship engineers must treat every minute of operation as though a problem is about to erupt. The cornerstone of continuous operation is preventive maintenance, which involves scheduled tasks to preempt problems. These tasks include changing oil and filters, cleaning fuel injectors, adjusting valve clearances, inspecting seals and gaskets, and checking coolant and lubricating systems. Such work is meticulously logged, and if a task is missed, it could lead to silent wear that results in a breakdown. Every part has a lifespan that engineers track like a time bomb, and they replace it when it's due, regardless of whether it has failed. While preventive work is vital, it's predictive maintenance that provides engineers with a sixth sense. Using real-time data from engine-mounted sensors, crews monitor vibration patterns, exhaust temperatures, oil viscosity, contaminant levels, bearing wear, and fuel pressure. Anomalies are not dismissed. A vibration increase could signal shaft misalignment, and a slight dip in oil pressure might indicate seal degradation. Modern tankers are equipped with software systems that transform these signals into early warnings, much like a blood test for the machine. Engineers also perform daily walkthroughs of the engine room to check fuel levels, measure cooling water temperature, and log lubrication oil pressure. They inspect for leaks or unusual smells and listen for irregular knocks or hums. A subtle metallic ring in the engine noise could reveal a loose bolt or a failing bearing, which could be a 10-minute fix if caught early, or a multi-million-dollar failure if missed. With an engine weighing over 2,000 tons and generating 50,000 horsepower, even small deviations can snowball into serious damage. Engineers constantly compare current load to design parameters, fuel flow to expected output, and real-time readings to historical trends, adapting the load to prevent overstraining the machinery. This is like monitoring a heartbeat. If the rhythm changes, you must act immediately. When something inevitably breaks, there is no roadside assistance. Engineers must act immediately by shutting down the affected system, rerouting operations to backup systems, and performing repairs with onboard parts. These repairs often happen in sweltering, vibrating compartments with no room for hesitation. Certain maintenance tasks, like partial overhauls, can't be done at sea. These are planned months in advance for specific running hour milestones, such as 1,000, 2,000, 4,000, and 8,000 hours, and are performed while the ship is at port. These overhauls can include inspecting pistons and cylinder liners, replacing piston rings and connecting rod bolts, and decarbonizing combustion chambers. The clock starts the second the propeller stops, and failure to finish on time can cost millions of dollars per day in shipment delays. Modern tankers are also equipped with engine management systems, EMS, which act as digital co-pilots. These systems track operating parameters in real time, optimize fuel injection timing, and adjust turbocharger performance. The EMS alerts the crew to developing faults and can even automatically correct minor imbalances. This technology doesn't replace engineers, it augments them, filtering thousands of signals into actionable insights for smarter decision-making. All this technology is useless without a skilled crew. A dedicated engineering team, which includes a chief engineer, second engineer, and other specialists, is trained in diesel mechanics, electrical systems, hydraulics, and emergency protocols. These professionals are not just button pushers. They undergo continuous development, simulator drills, and emergency response rehearsals to keep their skills sharp. When the engine surges or drops, they know what to do. The discipline isn't just technical, it's also legal. Every action, from oil changes to software updates, is meticulously documented. These logs are required by manufacturers and classification societies, and they provide proof of proper upkeep for insurance and inspections. In the event of an accident, these logs can save licenses or destroy careers. The entire system is built on continuity, with no idle mode or weekly reset. The pressure is not just physical, but mental, as engineers live in a perpetual loop of anticipation and reaction. The cargo loading and unloading process for oil tankers is a high-stakes operation with strict safety protocols. A single mistake could lead to a devastating firestorm or an environmental catastrophe. The process begins with the vessel's arrival, where tugboats guide the tanker into position. The ship is then secured to the quay using high-strength mooring lines and winches, as even a 1-meter drift could shear a pipe or rupture a hose. Massive articulated loading arms or reinforced hoses are then connected, with every joint checked and pressure tested to ensure total containment before any oil flows. Before pumping begins, an exhaustive checklist of safety checks and tests is completed. This includes testing emergency shutdown systems, connecting static grounding cables to prevent sparks, positioning fire monitors, and inspecting the ship's inert gas system. The pumping process itself is carefully controlled, starting slowly to prevent static electricity buildup and allowing systems to normalize. The flow rate is increased gradually, but always remains within design tolerances, with the crew constantly monitoring temperature, flow rate, and pressure. Continuous monitoring and coordination are maintained by two command centers, the ship's cargo control room and the terminal's loading master station. They are in constant communication, with every change confirmed and logged. Level sensors and radar gauges track the cargo in real time, and high-level alarms are armed to prevent overfilling a tank, which could cause an ecological disaster. The tanker's stability, including its trim and list, is managed with mathematical precision using loading calculators. As cargo weight shifts, ballast tanks are adjusted with seawater to maintain an even keel and prevent hull stress. When the final tank is nearing capacity, the pumping rate is reduced again. Lines are drained, and valves are shut sequentially to prevent pressure surges. Disconnecting the loading arms is a moment of high tension, as most spills occur during this phase. Drip trays and containment booms are used to catch any drops. The entire process is meticulously documented, with cargo quantities and quality verified, and records used for legal documents. Emergency booms, absorbent pads, and skimmers are also on standby, and the crew is trained in emergency containment drills to respond immediately to any spills. The immense caution is driven by the brutal numbers. A single tanker can carry over 2 million barrels of oil, and a leak could poison ecosystems for decades. This protocol is a code of survival, enforced by multiple layers of oversight, including the ship's master, port authorities, and third-party inspectors. Despite all the technology and oversight, human discipline remains the ultimate defense. If the watch officer catches an error or the dock crew spots a leak, the disaster is averted. This demanding operation, with its focus on vigilance and precision, is what allows billions of barrels of oil to move safely without incident. On board an oil tanker, emergency response is not a protocol, but a survival mechanism, as the crew is the first and last line of defense in the middle of the ocean. Emergencies are not rare. They are expected, trained for, and rehearsed down to the second. For an oil spill, every second matters. When oil is detected, an alarm is raised, and all operations stop to contain the spill at its source. The crew, acting under a pre-assigned incident command system, deploys absorbent pads and oil booms to box in the spill within minutes. Shore authorities are then notified per MARPOL protocols. This entire sequence is routinely drilled, because if it isn't automatic, it's already too late. For onboard injuries, all crew members have basic and advanced first aid training. When an injury occurs, action is immediate and an onboard medic is notified. The ship's master is also informed, and an emergency medical folder is activated to log the details. For serious injuries, medevac protocols are initiated for helicopter evacuation, and ships may consult with doctors via satellite through telemedical services. Injury reports are logged and reviewed to prevent future incidents. Fire is the most feared emergency at sea, and modern ships are equipped with heat, smoke, and gas detectors that alert the crew within 60 seconds. A trained fire squad mobilizes, and the affected compartment is sealed to isolate the fire. Depending on the fire's class, fixed suppression systems, such as foam, CO2, or FM200, are deployed. In the event of a total evacuation, every sailor has a designated muster point where they report with life jackets and await orders. Weekly drills simulate lifeboat launches and total abandonment, with roles rotated to ensure everyone is prepared. Teams are also assigned to assist injured or unconscious personnel during evacuation, following map stretcher routes and using man-down teams for recovery. All these procedures are governed by a unified command structure, where every crew member knows their duty and who to report to. Ships follow guidelines like the International Safety Guide for Oil Tankers and Terminals, ISCOT, and MARPOL emergency plans, and they conduct cyclical drills for fire, oil spills, and other emergencies. This rigorous training and conditioning allow crews to suppress panic and act with urgency and precision, treating each other as their last chance. The goal of these procedures is to contain disasters before they become tragedies. Today's oil tankers are floating fortresses engineered with multiple layers of defense to prevent pollution. Guided by international conventions like Marpol Annex the Mir, modern tankers are built with a double hull. Two steel layers separated by a void, which became mandatory after several high-profile spills. This double hull design significantly reduces spill incidents and collisions and near eliminates catastrophic breaches during grounding. Older tankers use the same tanks for cargo and ballast water, leading to oily discharges. Modern tankers, however, use dedicated segregated ballast tanks that never come into contact with cargo, eradicating a common source of pollution. Regulatory data shows that ships with segregated ballast have a 90% drop in bilge oil pollution events. Oily water separators, OWS, are a mandatory Marpol device that filters bilge water to below 15 parts per million, ppm, of oil content before discharge. Crew members continuously operate the OWS and log its performance in the oil record book, with automated monitors triggering alarms and lockdowns if readings exceed limits. Modern ships equipped with IMO-approved OWS maintain discharge levels under 10 ppm 98% of the time. Additionally, oil discharge monitoring and control systems, ODME, use sensors, flow meters, and GPS to regulate every liter of oily effluent. These systems automatically lock valves and alert the bridge if discharge limits are exceeded or if a crew member attempts a bypass. Waste management on tankers is also subject to strict discipline. Sludge, used filters, and other residues are sorted, stored, and offloaded at certified facilities ashore. Crews follow shipboard oil pollution emergency plans, SOPEP, and garbage management plans, drilling quarterly on waste handling procedures to ensure instinctive responses to spills. To prevent routine pollution from operations like tank cleaning, tankers use closed tank cleaning machines that recirculate wash water until it meets discharge standards. Vapor recovery units, VRUs, capture hydrocarbon vapors during loading and unloading, routing them back into cargo tanks and cutting volatile organic compound, VOC, emissions by up to 95%. Technology is ineffective without skilled operators. Tanker crews undergo rigorous certification and specialized Marpol training under the Standards of Training, Certification, and Watchkeeping, STCW. They rehearse pollution drills monthly to reinforce SOPEP protocols, and inspections by programs like OCIMF's SIRE evaluate their proficiency. This ensures that environmental protection is treated as a mission-critical habit, not just paperwork. The final safeguard is legal and financial accountability. Under Marpol, oil polluters face heavy fines, criminal prosecution, and detention. Ship owners must carry oil pollution liability insurance, which can cover cleanup costs of hundreds of millions of dollars. In 2023, enforcement actions under the U.S. Oil Pollution Act resulted in over $200 million in penalties, proving that failure to comply has severe consequences. These collective measures form a watertight system that protects marine ecosystems from tanker operations. Double hulls guard against breaches, while segregated ballast tanks and OWS units scrub polluting water. Monitoring systems enforce compliance, and waste protocols trap residues. With crews training relentlessly and legal frameworks backing every practice, the industry has transformed from a source of spills into a model of data-driven environmental stewardship. As tankers navigate the world's shipping lanes, they sail as sentinels of ocean health, upholding a determination to keep oceans clean and refusing to let their cargo become the sea's poison.